Oh, hi. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm kind of busy. Um, I'm working on the next book that I'm writing. It's called Artistic Endeavors, and it's about a time traveling artist. Or that'd be something different. Tell you what, I'm pretty far along on this. I think I've only got about 10,000 words left to write before I'm done. But how about joining me? I'll let me read the first chapter to you. You can leave me some information on how you think it's coming along. Um, so let's see what we got here. Martin poised the hammer and chisel over the nose of a bust of Cassius. He just had a minor adjustment to make, then the bust would be finished. The chime on the doorbell startled him as the hammer came down with a heavy thwack. The nose dropped off onto the floor. Damn and blast it! He kicked at the marble nose, sending it rebounding off the wall. Angrily looking at the bust he had been carving, he raised the hammer. Holding the chisel against the defaced bust, he smote the marble blow after blow. In a frenzy of frustration, he sent chips and chunks flying around the studio. Standing in the doorway, Arthur dodged as a chunk whizzed past his ear. He rounded on the intruder who had intentionally caused the demolition of his latest piece. What the hell do you want? Arthur swallowed hard as he walked cautiously in. Sorry for disturbing you, Martin, but we need to talk about the last set of sculptures you sent over. Martin grudgingly offered him a seat, leaning back against the table. He waited. Arthur sat forward, trying to make his words persuasive. Martin, these sculptures you're turning out are worthy of a place in a museum. But classical sculptures just don't sell well right now. I've told you before, and I tell you again, you've got to go back to the more innovative work. Those sell well enough to bring us both high profits. You barely cleared the housekeeping of the ones you've sent recently. Arthur shrugged and waited for an explosion from Martin. Instead of the explosion, Martin sank onto a stool. No, I guess you're right. He looked around sadly. Tell you what, I've got an idea for a new piece. Why don't I give you a call when it's ready? We can try this again. Arthur, I appreciate you trying to push my stuff. I've created plenty of pieces, but as you say, I haven't sold enough to do more than just get by. There's something missing in them, and I don't know what it is. He rose and joined Arthur by his recent creations, and seeing the disappointment writ plain upon his face, swept those closest to the floor. Arthur patted Martin on the shoulder. Hell, we've known each other for a long time, and all that time, all you ever wanted to do was to create. When you do those combinations of sculptures and electronics, it works, and you make bank. When you go back to these classical ones, not so close. But you're an artist, you're Merrill, and I'll always be here to support you. He stood up and put on his jacket. One thing, though, you might want to take a few anger management sessions with somebody. He zipped up his jacket, took a last swig of whiskey, and left the gallery set up for the next exhibits. Leaving the scattered marble to fend for itself, Martin brushed off the work table and brought out paper and pencil. The first sketch was of a similar bust to the one he had just destroyed. He stopped mid-sketch. That wasn't what Arthur wanted. He had to get more creative if he wanted to eat. The door burst open, sending the bell clanging wildly. Leaping over the threshold, Arthur went straight to one of the pieces by the wall. Reaching out, he grabbed hold of a 3-foot-high pedestal. It was capped with an oval plate with a large thin glass bottle resting on its side, held in a sculpted wave. The thin glass was colored in various swirling shades of blue and gray. Its delicacy was intriguing. He brought it to the light to examine it better. Martin, I saw this one out of the corner of my eye. Didn't register, though, until a few seconds ago. Martin joined his friend at the window as Arthur turned the piece around, watching as the light changed the grays of blue's intensity. The play of light emphasizes some of the shades, giving the piece a depth I hadn't noticed initially. It has a unique quality. I think it'll sell well. Why didn't you show me this earlier? Martin relaxed. Well, it's an interesting piece, all right. I was wondering what you'd think of it. He went to the desk and poured them both another stiff Martell 5-star that he kept for special occasions. Arthur sipped the brandy appreciatively. Martin, this is the one I'm going to give you space for. He turned it slowly. It has subtlety, a finesse that is unique from your other works. I don't know how you achieve the swirling variations of blues and grays, but they are beautiful. It's a symphony in duality. He went on waxing enthusiastically on the piece, so much so that Martin suddenly burst out laughing. Arthur's brow shut up at his friend's merriment. What's the joke? Martin slipped on some white cotton gloves and removed the bottle from the pedestal. The bottom had been cradled in a wave sculpted from foam glass that had partially covered it. It was made to look as if the bottle had washed in from the sea. Bringing the underside into the light, he pointed to an inscription. GE 8000 watt acorn light bulb, serial number 113794-5X2. Arthur was aghast. It's a damn light bulb, for Christ's sake. He held the bulb and re-examined the markings. He laughed heartily. You got me. I'm glad you stopped me in time from making a fool of myself. I would have gone on and on about it, and then when somebody bought it, we'd been sued, and my reputation as expert shattered. He carefully replaced the bulb in its pedestal and carried it back to its place on the shelf, by the shelf. Still, it's almost a shame I can't put it on display. It's an attractive piece. Passing the calendar hung on the wall, the date seeped imperceptibly into his brain. When sudden realization of the date came to the fore, he almost dropped the sculpture. He swung round on Martin. I'm going to open space for this, after all. I'm going all out, too. This will be proclaimed as one of your greatest works to date. Bring up a light for it, for the gallery, and we'll stick it on display tomorrow with a starting bid of 500. No, 1,000. Martin looked at his friend as if he had taken his last marble and thrown it contemptuously out the door and across the street. Arthur, I think you've had too much Martell, or else you're trying to get yourself and me thrown in jail for fraud. Arthur was now laughing so hard he staggered over to the chair and continued until he had gotten it out of the system. Leaning back weakly, he pointed up to the calendar. Once Martin saw the April Fool's Day, it was a week away, he joined in the laughter. Suddenly he sobered up. Yeah, but what if somebody wants to buy it? Arthur considered this, and his grin broadened. Someone wants to buy it, we sell it. However, we'll explain this was an April Fool's joke and show them the bottom. If they still want it, well, by explaining about it, we're off the hook. You take the money minus the gallery's commission, of course. He looked at Martin nervously, wiping his hands on a drop cloth. Martin, you're thinking too much about the fact it's a bulb. Remember, was it Duchamp entered a urinal into an art show once by putting a number on it and calling it a fountain? Arthur took plenty of pictures and went back to the gallery with a roll of film and his notes. Martin placed the pedestal near the table and began creating a lighting source. When completed, it would represent the sun beating down on the beach the bottle was cast up on. He tried bulb after bulb until he found one bright enough to show the shading, but not so bright as to lose everything in the glare. A new thought struck him. He cut the light cord and stuck a dimmer switch on it. This way it became changeable, emphasizing whatever the viewer wanted. He bought out some foam wrap and covered everything, reinforcing things with cardboard. Tape held it together, and he laid it carefully on the long box, then called the gallery for pickup. While waiting, he fixed himself a little something on the electric skillet. Pork chop and fried potatoes cooked slowly, as he anticipated their joke. Martin arrived early and helped the small staff move pieces to give his prominence. The lights on the walls over the pictures were dimmed. Sculptures were moved closer to the walls. As the staff put out chairs and tables, Martin adjusted the lights for maximum effect. He found a long ladder and, dropping a line over a hook in the ceiling, then hung a box curtain over his piece. The other end he placed near the podium for the unveiling. The day of the unveiling was a surprise. Arthur must have used all his pull, and the gallery was crowded. The box curtain hung over the sculpture. The guests were seated in front of a podium where Arthur stood and Martin sat. The wine, cheese, and crackers and fruit had graced the side table had rapidly diminished. Arthur explained about the piece at length and the artist who had created this magnificent work. Martin rose and thanked everyone for coming to the unveiling of his latest work. The time has come for me to unveil, so would everyone please gather at the curtain? The work was surrounded with people. The lights in the gallery dimmed further. Martin pulled the cord to raise the curtain. The oohs and ahs that sounded brought smiles to the duo's faces. Their joke was going to be a huge success. For the next half hour, the sculpture was studied, the dimmer switch repeatedly adjusted, and conversation babbled. When the time for bidding arrived, the assembly sat with cards in their laps. The gallery's auctioneer stood at the podium and again read the description of the work. He started the bidding at $500. A card shot up and the race was off. Arthur murmured to Martin that they might get maybe 4,000 at the most, but the bidding was swift and rose past that almost immediately. It was into the 7,000s when Martin's conscience whacked him. He stood up and, interrupting the bidding, walked to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, before things get too much farther, I feel the need to explain something. This meeting and the exhibit were all part of an elaborate April Fool's joke. The piece is for sale, but I want you to know what you're getting for your money. The bottle is simply a burned out light bulb. I liked the pattern that had formed naturally and created the base for it as a showcase. If you still wish to bid, we can begin again, or if you want, we can continue from where the bidding left off. So what do you wish to do? The auctioneer returned to the podium and asked for a show of cards. It was decided that bidding would resume where it had left off. To Martin and Arthur's surprise and delight, bidding was now faster than before. When bidding reached 8,000, Martin was practically in tears. At the moment, he was almost skint. The extra money would serve as a cushion until the next sale. At 8,500, bidding stopped. It had been won by a private collector who had wrapped up and placed in his van. He was given a certificate of authenticity and handed over cash money. The commission was removed and Martin received 6,200. He tried to split the money with Arthur. It was adamantly refused. For a while, at least, Martin had enough to do more than just get by. Martin was so elated at his good fortune, he treated Arthur to an excellent dinner and champagne. Over dinner, Arthur discussed Martin's next project. Martin was fiddling with his mashed potatoes, sculpting them into a model of the vase he had created days ago and then destroyed. Arthur broke into his reverie with a question. Martin, not to beat a dead horse, why not set yourself up only doing some of the more avant-garde works? You can work on the serious stuff if you've made more money. Martin smashed the sculpture apart and looked down at Arthur. You really don't know me at all, do you? He dropped the fork on the plate and pushed the rust away. And all the time we've known each other, you still don't get it. I want to be exclusively a classical artist in the mode of Da Vinci and Michelangelo. I'm not a Picasso or a Duchamp. I want to be taken seriously. Arthur raised an eyebrow. You know damn well what I mean. He laid back in his chair and rubbed his temples. Arthur apologized. I know, pal, but there's bills to pay. And let's face facts. The avant-garde is what is paying them for you. Do a few more, and then you can try your hand at the serious stuff again. Martin paid the bill. Rising, he took Arthur's hand and promised he'd try. He walked out of the restaurant with shoulders bowed and his feet shuffling on the sidewalk. Dragging himself the 10 blocks to his studio, he contemplated his next artistic endeavor. Arthur headed to the Calafario Art Museum and went with the curator to the archives to sort through some boxes. He was hoping to find something new to write an article about. As an established and respected historian, he had the right of passage to many a museum's enclave. Walking into the rear of the museum, they entered the storage area. Here, among shelves of boxes and flat, unframed canvases, were items not on display, or all were being cataloged. I beg your pardon, I'm sorry. All were being cataloged and available to be examined. Under bright fluorescent lights, he sat at a folding table and with an open box marked charcoal and chalk. He examined piece after piece. Nothing excited his attention until he came on one that seemed vaguely familiar. The sketch was done in red chalk, similar to sketches done by Michelangelo, but subtly different enough that it couldn't be his. Couldn't be a Da Vinci or Raphael either, but it was still damn familiar. The name Michelangelo kept ringing in his head and wouldn't stop. He examined it closely again. Yes, there were similarities to Michelangelo's works, but if he was honest, it was more as if someone was copying his style. Perhaps a student or one of his assistants was taking notes and working out a picture of their own. He studied the sketch under a brighter light. It was a portrait of a young woman set in a street. Behind her was a church with an ornate clock tower, the time showing 10:10. She was painting a field of flowers with several birds in which only a portion was completed. Beside the painting was a scene of a market with the alley being sketched a darker red than the rest. On the alley entrance were Roman numerals, XB, BI, NDXLBI. Well, if this was a date, it worked out to September 15th, 1546. He asked permission to take some pictures for analysis, which was granted. He used his antique vest pocket Kodak autograph camera. An antique to capture an antique, he thought as he snapped away. The curator invited Arthur back to his office for a cup of tea and sandwiches. Over a light meal, the curator opened his mind to Arthur. Hey, I just want to fill you in on the history of that sketch. It was found in a sealed wooden case in Michelangelo's home. Most of the sketches were distributed around, and we received this along with the others. The odd thing is that while it's very similar to Michelangelo's sketches, especially those accomplished around 1546, we can say for sure it wasn't his. They chatted a while more, and Arthur, again thanking the curator for the information lunch and the perusal of the box, rose to leave. As he neared the door, he turned with a grin. Maybe, as they say of some of Shakespeare's plays, it was just another artist with the same name. They both laughed, and Arthur went back to his apartment to rest. It had been a long day, and tomorrow promised to be just exactive. Okay, that's the first chapter of Artistic Endeavor. So I'm up to page, let's take a look here. Let's see which page I'm on. Now this is page 68, but that's not formatted for book or anything like that. That's just straight typing on normal paper. So I'm curious, what do you think? Do you like it? Think I should change something? If you want to hear more, let me know that too. That's what the comments section is for. But like I said, I'm almost done with this one. I'm going to have to do some editing and get this looking better. I'm going to try and get it out to a publisher. We're going to try and do this without self-publishing. And then I'm going to start on my next one. The next one's going to, after this, is going to be a young adult one called, the tentative title is called Somebody Has to Die, which does not really sound like a good title for a young adult, so I'm looking for a different one. But it's basically, it's another time travel novel, but it's set in the future, where kind of a dystopian type future where a group of the youngest children of the first families who have all the money and control everything get together. They don't like the fact that all the people that aren't in this group, the people who actually grow the food and do all sorts of stuff, are being kept pretty badly. I mean, their housing is full of holes and they don't get much in the way of pay. So they're determined to try and change things. And so what they want to do is find some way of going back in time, finding what is called the crux event, the event where something happened that made this particular situation where these families got rich and everybody else got poor. And they're going to have to go back to that time and change it, but only one person can go. So that's why, they may not make it back. So there's a question as to the person who goes, are they going to eliminate their own future? So that's kind of where this is going. I barely got going. I've only got a couple of chapters in yet. Trying to write that one as I write this one. It's possible. I haven't been doing many of these videos lately. So let me know what you think of Artistic Endeavors. Let me know what you think of my new book. And if you can suggest a better title for that, I'd really appreciate it, because I don't think that's gonna sell. So that is it for today. I am in hopes of doing another reading from somebody else's book. I'll have to get with them again and see if they're willing to do it. I'll let you know. But maybe back on tomorrow and doing another book from one of my Time Is series books, because I have to admit, I really enjoyed writing them. I enjoy reading them, and I love telling them some of the chapters to you. So tune back tomorrow, see what's up, and I really appreciate you stopping by and visiting. So Thanks for visiting with Storytime with David, and I will see you on my next video. Thanks again. Bye.